My name is Julia Foster, and I'm 30. For as long as I can remember, I've been the responsible one. In my family, that title wasn't optional. It was a role carved out of expectation, logic, and quiet sacrifice. My younger sister, Natalie, was the opposite: the story, the chaos, the fire alarm. I was the fire extinguisher. People think being the reliable sibling is noble, maybe even glamorous. It isn't. It's 6 a.m. emergencies, keeping secrets, managing crises you didn't create. And somehow it always falls on you. Still, I liked it. I liked knowing I could build stability where none existed. Maybe that's why I had spent years crafting a life my family could never touch. One carefully measured, legally secured, emotionally guarded. The night before my trip to Maui, I stood in my living room surrounded by suitcases, the air scented with lemon cleaner. I walked each room like a soldier, checking her posts, counting windows, testing locks, imagining the quiet that awaited me. Text when you land, my mom said earlier, clipped and practical. Don't post too much. I could see the pinched smile she always wore, even on the phone. I will, I'd said. And if you talk to the bank, ask about extending. I'm leaving at 5 in the morning. Her pause was long, then soft. Have fun, honey. And so I went. My first real vacation in 3 years. No clients, no messages, no obligations. Just sun, waves, sand turning gold at sunrise, and the kind of laughter I hadn't felt in months. On day 7, I turned my phone back on, expecting a few mundane updates about mail or packages. Instead, my notifications stacked like a tower about to topple. 19 missed calls from Mom, 12 from Dad, 7 from Natalie, and a message preview from Dad. Important update about the house. Call now. I froze. The papaya on my fork drooped. My heart thudded. Finally, I pressed the green button. No, hello. Where are you in Maui? Mom's voice was clipped, almost theatrical in its calm. Why? I asked slowly. Well, she said, breathless, almost triumphant. We handled something for you. What did you handle? Your house, she said casually. It's sold. The fork clinked against the plate. I didn't drop it. I just stared. You're welcome, she added. You'll understand when you see the numbers. I didn't respond immediately. Outside, a child laughed at a bartender's joke. The sound was ordinary, safe, and it made my eyes burn. Mom's voice continued. Don't be dramatic, Julia. It's done. Come home. I set the phone down. The waves crashed. My head throbbed with disbelief and an anger I had been cultivating silently for years. I knew something they didn't, something they could never understand. The house they thought they sold, the property they thought was mine in their eyes, wasn't really mine. Not on paper, not legally. It belonged to Willow Pine Holdings, LLC, a small entity I had quietly created years ago. The signature they forged wasn't mine. It was nobody's. And in that moment, a strange, sharp satisfaction pricked through the shock. I didn't need the house. I already owned it. The text from Natalie came next. Short, sharp. Finally leveled the playing field. You can always crash on my couch. I didn't respond. I finished my coffee, booked the earliest flight, packed my bag with hands that trembled but eyes burning with resolve. Back home, a moving truck idled outside the property, a silent monument to their arrogance. My mother, standing in church sandals with hands on her hips, directed movers like a foreman. There she is, she called when she saw me. We were worried you'd miss us. Miss what? I asked, walking past her into the open doorway. The house smelled of Windex and warm drywall, like any place under renovation, yet deeply familiar. Natalie followed, spanning slightly as she stepped into the kitchen. Hey, Julia, how was Maui? I didn't answer. We'll do this in the living room, I said firmly. We sat. Mom crossed her ankles. Dad remained standing, hands in pockets, expectant. Natalie scrolled on her phone like a bored princess. Mom began brightly, artificially sweet. We made a tough call, but family comes first. I inhaled slowly. You sold a house that doesn't belong to you. Silence. Mom's smile twitched. Don't be childish. It's your house. Everyone knows it. No, I said. The property is controlled by Willow Pine Holdings, LLC. The title is clean. The deed you signed? Scribbles? Forgery? Identity theft? You didn't just make a mistake. You attempted fraud. Natalie snorted. Oh my God, Julia, nobody cares about your little paperwork games. I fixed her with a look she couldn't scroll past. Did you pay off your debt with the wire? Her chin lifted. Yes, how much? You don't have to tell me that, she replied. You do, I said quietly. Dad's eyes narrowed. Watch your tone. I met his gaze evenly. No. What did you just say? The money you used comes from a transaction based on my forged signature. You cannot, will not, dictate my life or my assets anymore. The buyer, who had been pretending to check his phone, stepped outside, taking a call. Mom's eyes hardened. Natalie's expression shifted from smirk to a quiet, careful calculation. I breathed. Calm. Steady. This isn't about revenge. This is about closure. I am setting boundaries. I am done being your plan, your rainy day jar, your default fund. I am done being invisible in my own life. Mom laughed, sharp, incredulous. Closure? You're being dramatic. I stood, legs steady beneath me. Boring is powerful, I said, and left them to their chaos. Outside, the air felt like water in my lungs. The sun was starting to dip behind the trees, golden and forgiving. For the first time in years, I felt like my life was mine again. I was Julia Foster. I worked hard. I loved my family. But I no longer existed for their convenience. If you want to understand me, you need to understand the math of my family. Numbers told the truth, even when words lied. From a young age, I learned to translate chaos into numbers, to track debts, favors, and failures in a ledger only I could read. Mom kept a rainy day jar on top of the fridge, full of coins for emergencies. The scoreboard in her head, that was for me. Julia gets straight A's, she'd say. Good. Expected. Natalie gets a C+. She'd clap as if lightning had struck the living room. My sister's victories were exaggerated. My victories were invisible. I was the plan, the default. She was the story. By 19, I was driving Natalie everywhere. SAT tutoring, nail appointments, parties where I waited outside with a fast food soda while she twirled under string lights, smelling like other people's cologne. If I wanted gas money, Dad would say, invest in yourself. If Natalie wanted a new phone, Mom would slide her a $50 bill, whispering, she needs to feel connected. At 21, I passed my real estate licensing exam on the second try. I cried alone in my car for 10 minutes. Not big sobs, just quiet relief. That first year taught me the old math. 10 showings for one offer, 2 offers for one sale for a month, you could breathe. I wore my only blue suit until the elbows shone, took clients to coffee I couldn't afford, and learned that satisfaction wasn't about applause, it was about control. Natalie floated through cosmetology courses, influencer dreams, and consulting for a friend's boutique. Mom called it finding herself. She found credit instead. Car note $642, 4 cards totaling $39,600, personal loan $28 million, and an investor course at 19.9% APR. Quiet debts, loud purchases, constant texts. Can you spot me $300? I'll pay you back Friday. I spotted her twice. She didn't repay either time. The third time, I said no. She told Mom. Mom told me I was cruel. It was in that crucible of expectation and chaos that I learned to protect myself. 2 years ago, when the market dipped near the park, I saw an opportunity. Investors panicked over a new build. I formed Willow Pine Holdings, LLC, with $300 and a boring operating agreement. The LLC took a master lease on the property with an option to purchase at a pre-agreed price. The cash flow was steady. The option meant I could buy when my financing lined up, or assign the contract for a fee. I put my name nowhere. The mailbox, the lease, the deed, all discreet. I worked in silence, because in my family, visibility meant vulnerability. Meanwhile, Natalie's numbers multiplied, cards maxed, loans untouched, rent unpaid, appointments forgotten, dinners charged, all posted to social media with captions like, "Work hard, play harder." I watched from the sidelines, quietly calculating how long before chaos would reach the inevitable tipping point. 4 days into my Maui trip, she posted a story with a cocktail and the caption, "Celebrating big life moves." I swiped past. I didn't want to know. I had a system, a plan, boundaries I was willing to enforce. And then my parents did the thing they always did when scared. They handled something. My sister's $214,000 debt became an emergency. They called a cash buyer, forged my signature, and wired the funds. They used $214,000 to rescue Natalie, leaving a fraction for me to get back on my feet. A fraction. Nearly laughable, if it weren't so infuriating. Because here's the truth they didn't know. I already owned the house. The signature they forged was meaningless. They thought they were solving a problem. They were just walking into the trap I had quietly built. I flew back on a red-eye, jaw tight, palms clammy. I didn't go to their house. I went straight to the property. A moving truck idled in the driveway, my mother barking orders like a foreman, her church sandals clacking against the concrete. "There she is," she called. "We were worried you'd miss us." I didn't answer. I walked past her, past Natalie, and into the home I controlled. The buyer, taking photos like an influencer, nodded confidently. He didn't know who I was, and he didn't know what I knew. The confrontation was inevitable, but I waited, calm, deliberate, and patient. Numbers don't lie, I reminded myself. They never had. I was ready. The living room smelled of Windex and warm drywall, a temporary scent of order in the middle of chaos. The string lights outside hummed softly, casting pale halos across the empty floors. Mom perched on the arm of a chair, hands folded, smiling too brightly. Dad leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, trying to project authority. Natalie lounged like a queen, phone face down, as if daring me to disrupt her narrative. I took a slow breath. "We need to talk," I said, my voice calm but precise, like the sound of a gavel before a verdict. Mom's tone chirped artificially. "We made a tough call, Julia. Family comes first." I let the words hang. "You sold a house that doesn't belong to you. You forged my signature. You committed fraud." Silence. Mom's smile twitched. Natalie blinked, caught off guard for the first time. Dad's jaw tightened. The buyer, who had been pretending to scroll through his phone, finally looked up. "Don't be dramatic," Mom said, a thin edge to her voice now. "No drama," I replied. "Facts, numbers, my name, my signature, my property. You used them where they didn't belong." Natalie rolled her eyes, scoffing. "Oh, Julia, nobody cares about your little paperwork games." I fixed her with a gaze sharp enough to cut through years of entitlement. "Did you pay off your debt with the wire?" Her chin lifted. "Yes. How much?" "You don't have to tell me that," she said nervously. "You do," I said quietly, each word deliberate. Dad stepped forward, voice low, warning. "Watch your tone." I didn't flinch. "No. Listen carefully. You cannot dictate my life or my assets anymore. This isn't a discussion. It's a boundary. I am done being your plan, your default, your rainy day fund." Mom laughed, sharp, incredulous. "Closure? You're being dramatic." I stood, legs steady beneath me. "Boring is powerful," I said. "I have documented everything. Emails, leases, permits, the buyer's contract, bank transfers. The wire will be returned. The deed is void. If you attempt to record anything, I will take legal action." The buyer, finally understanding he had been pulled into a family drama that wasn't his business, excused himself for a phone call. Mom's eyes narrowed. Natalie's expression shifted from smirk to a careful calculation. My words landed like bullets they weren't ready to catch. "This isn't about revenge," I continued. "It's about closure. I will always respond to emergencies, but not to your chaos, not to your debts, not to your sense of entitlement. I am done being invisible in my own life." Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. Dad's jaw clenched. Natalie's shoulders tensed. They all realized in that quiet, humming room that I had finally become untouchable, not cruel, not vindictive, just boundaried. I let the silence stretch, letting them feel the weight of their mistakes without my explanation. I was done explaining, done justifying, done being the one who always fixed everything. The sun dipped lower outside, golden light pooling across the floorboards. For the first time in years, the property felt like mine, not just legally, but emotionally. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need them to understand. I only needed to own my space, my decisions, and my life. I turned and walked toward the door. "I am done here," I said simply. The click of the latch behind me sounded louder than any argument could have. Outside, the air felt like water in my lungs. I inhaled deeply. I was Julia Foster, 31, strong, unapologetic, free. The first morning after the confrontation, I brewed coffee and listened to silence. For the first time in years, No notifications, no urgent texts, no demands. Just the hum of the city waking up and the soft clink of my mug against the counter. 3 months passed like this, waves of attempted contact from my family, each ignored, each met with measured restraint. Mom sent articles about forgiveness. I didn't reply. Dad left voicemails, alternating between guilt and threats. Natalie posted images of champagne glasses with captions about accountability. I responded once, "We're adults." I walked through my property like it was a temple of quiet. Empty rooms, bare floors, clean air. I placed one chair in the living room, one lamp, one rule, nothing I can't defend. This house wasn't just brick and mortar, it was the boundary I had finally set with my family. At work, I immersed myself in clients who truly needed me. A nurse who hadn't seen the sunrise in years cried when I handed her the keys to a 2-bedroom condo with an east-facing balcony. "Welcome home," I said. And for a moment, the world felt clean, real, uncontaminated by family chaos. Yet life has a way of testing boundaries. Mom texted, "We were scared." I stared at the words until they blurred. I typed back, "I know." That was enough. I didn't add guilt. I didn't add justification. I let silence be my shield. Natalie called once, asking if we were okay. I responded, "We're adults." Through it all, I nurtured my own life. Slow, deliberate, intentional. I exercised the purchase option and bought the house outright. Not for revenge, not to prove a point, but for peace. I furnished it slowly. One chair, one lamp, one rule at a time. The life I built wasn't flashy. It wasn't performative. It was mine. Some nights I sit under the string lights in the backyard thinking about the walls, the quiet. People want drama, confrontation, control. I want boundaries, consistency, clarity, charity over chaos, peace over guilt. My boyfriend Michael has been my anchor through this storm. He understands boundaries, respects independence, and has never once asked me to sacrifice my safety or sanity for the sake of anyone else's comfort. His presence is steady, grounding. Together, we plan, we dream, and we build. Not in response to anyone else's expectations, but in alignment with our own values. The occasional missives from my family, voicemails, texts, Instagram posts, still appear, but they carry no weight. I do not engage. I have learned that control over my own life is not cruelty, it is survival. In the quiet of my home, with sunlight spilling across the floors and the hum of the city outside, I finally understood the truth. Closure is a choice, freedom is a boundary, and peace is earned, not given. I am Julia Foster, 31. I love my family, but I no longer live in their chaos. I am the architect of my life, the guardian of my peace. And for the first time in as long as I can remember, it feels like home. It was a Sunday afternoon when everything finally felt balanced, not perfect, but steady. The house was quiet, the air carrying only the faint scent of lemon cleaner and warm sunlight. I sat on the porch, Michael beside me, coffee in hand, watching the neighborhood go about its slow rhythm. 3 months of silence had taught me the most important lesson. Family love is not permission to control or endanger your peace. My parents still tried, texts, calls, subtle social media jabs, but they no longer dictated my emotions. I read each one, weighed it, then set it aside like a paper airplane tossed into the wind. Natalie reached out once more, this time tentative, her tone almost apologetic. "Julia, I'm trying to fix things. Can we talk?" I considered it, really considered it, but the truth was simple. Closure isn't about conversations you think will heal. It's about boundaries you enforce. I replied, "We're adults. Actions, not words." Michael squeezed my hand. "You did what you had to do." I nodded. "I did, and it feels clean." Life didn't suddenly become drama-free. There were small waves, reminders of the old chaos, but they no longer pulled me under. I had built walls, yes, but also bridges. Bridges of self-respect, clarity, and unshakable boundaries. Work continued to be grounding. Clients moved in, children laughed in sunlit apartments, couples cried tears of joy as they received keys. Each moment reinforced the truth I had come to know. Helping others, on your terms, is empowerment. And then there was Michael. Steady, patient, always present. He didn't try to fix my past. He didn't question my boundaries. Instead, he built a life alongside me, brick by brick, moment by moment. Together, we planned small adventures, quiet weekends, and long-term goals that didn't involve appeasing anyone else's expectations. I walked through my home one evening, the faint glow of string lights painting soft shadows across the walls. I paused in the living room, hand brushing over the first chair I bought, the first lamp I placed. This was mine. Every corner, every floorboard, every ray of sunlight belonged to me, and no one else. The phone buzzed, a notification from my mother. I saw it, paused, and then set it aside. Not anger, not frustration, just peace. Because finally, I understood. Love does not require sacrifice of self. Family does not grant entitlement over your life, and freedom is not taken, it is defended every day. I breathed in, long and deep, feeling the quiet pulse of the house, the certainty of my choices, and the steady hand of Michael's support. For the first time, I wasn't running, reacting, or rescuing anyone else. I was present. I was free. Julia Foster, 31, architect of my life, keeper of my peace, guardian of my boundaries. I smiled, watching the golden sun fade behind the rooftops. For the first time, truly, it felt like home.